Hi, this is Mashnu and I have here one of my own games again. I played this one yesterday at the club and I was playing black, and I have met this same opponent a few times with the black pieces, and each time we get to this position after e5, and this is a very sharp variation in the against the Pirc defense. It's very tactical, and still now it's each time I have to calculate a lot of things and look for improvements, because there are so many possibilities here. The game continued with knight to g4, and now he plays e6, and here black has two options. One is to take on e6, f takes e6, and the other one is to take on b5. If black takes on e6, then knight to g5 follows, and now black can take on b5, and knight takes e6 looks like a very strong move, since it attacks three pieces more or less. Knight takes d8 is a threat, knight takes g7, and queen takes g4 is also a threat. But the Grandmaster Yasser Seirawan found here that black can play bishop takes d4, because if knight takes d8, then black has perpetual check here with bishop to f2 check, and if king d2, the bishop goes back to e3. Now this is one of the possibilities to play f takes e6, but in the game I prefer to play bishop takes b5. So here we don't have this draw variation, and white can take on f7. Now in the previous game that we played, that was I believe about a year ago, I played king to f8 here, and according to Fritz, king to f8 is the best move, but there are of course two other options. One is to take on f7, and the other one is to play king to d7. Now king to d7 it's a move that was played by Grandmaster Ivanchuk with black, and if you put this position in an engine like Fritz or Rybka, then it will tell you that white has an enormous advantage. But I think that this is because engines learn to evaluate the position according to certain programming, and this idea of having a pawn on the 7th rank gives so much evaluation points that's I think the reason why an engine tells you here that white has a 1 position, but I don't think it's true. The game that Ivanchuk played with king to d7 continued with knight takes b5, queen a5 check, the knight goes back to c3, and now c takes d4. After knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, queen takes d4, and now knight to c6, attacking the queen and defending the rook on h8. After queen to c4, queen to b6 was played, threatening mate, or no, threatening a dangerous check to be precise, on f2. Well, anyway, this is one possibility, king to d7, and in the game I chose to take the pawn on f7. Knight takes b5 followed, queen to a5 check, and here he played bishop to d2. Now after the game we were replaying the game and talking about it, and my opponent told me that probably c3 would have been better, and we both think that it is true, and also the engine analysis with Fritz tells that c3 is a better continuation. He gives the following variation: queen takes b5, knight to g5 check, and now he says a king to g8 is stronger than king to f8 or e8. In the game something similar happened, but after bishop to d2. Now I took on b5, and after knight to g5 check I went with the king to e8. Queen takes g4 followed. Now I cannot take on b2 because of queen c8 checkmate, threatening 1. So I played my queen to d7. Now another possibility of stopping this threat was to play knight to c6, but I played queen to d7, and here a very strong move would have been knight to e6. The idea is that if I take on d4, this is what I wanted to play if he would play knight to e6. The knight is pinned, that's true, but on the other hand this knight also is very strong on e6. So white could, for example, castle queenside here and have a strong position. But well, in the game after queen to d7 he took on d7, and after I took back he played knight to e6. I played king f7, and here it became clear why he had exchanged queens. He took on g7 thinking that I had to take back immediately. King takes g7, and in that case d takes c5 is very strong, because if I take with the knight, bishop c3 is very annoying for black. Not to lose the exchange, I have to play c5, and then f takes e5. I mean, f takes e5 is better for white. He wins a pawn. So in this position, after knight takes g7, he didn't see that I can take on d4, because the knight on g7 has no place to go. So I can simply wait one move with that. Now here he played c3. Now I have to take on g7. C takes d4, and we got in this endgame that I thought that it would be better for black because of this isolated pawn on d4 and the possibility for black to place a knight on e4 and support it with a pawn on d5. I played rook to c8 here, king to e2. Knight e4 is not very accurate because white could have played d5 here. So it would have been better to play d5 myself first, d5, and then later knight to e4, or maybe even knight to d5 is another idea. But in the game I played knight to e4, and I was fortunate because my opponent played g3 here, so I could play d5 and support this knight. Now I have a very strong knight on e4 in the center. They can continue with b3, king f7, rook to f1, king e6. My plan was to bring my king to d7 and then exchange rooks and put the other rook on c8, and I thought that the endgame of knight against bishop would be better for me, because I have the possibility of placing my pawns on light squares and my knight is stronger than his bishop. The game continued with g4. I took on c1, he took back, and I went on with my idea of king to d7, bishop to b4, e6, king e3, and now rook c8, and this rook was exchanged. And after h4 I started seeing that this endgame is not that easy to win, maybe even not possible. Fritz finds that the position is equal. I played king to d7 here, and he went with king to f3, and I realized that if he waits simply by moving his king to f3 and then back to e3, it's difficult for black to find a way to win. Maybe someone like Anatoly Karpov would find a way of slowly improving the position, but I didn't see anything. So I played knight to f6 and I offered a draw, and my opponent accepted. So this was the game, and it's a very sharp variation, this bishop b5 idea, and there are so many possibilities that it's really worth looking at this these ideas of e6 and taking f7 and all the complications that that can follow. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time on YouTube. Goodbye.